Good evening and welcome to this remote meeting of Wirral Planning Committee. My name is Stuart Kelly and I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting will be webcast and a record retained on the council website. For those people at home who are viewing the webcast, if you look above the meeting you will see a resources tab. Select this and the link to the agenda will appear on the right hand side. This will enable you to open the agenda reports as PDF documents and follow the discussion. My role is to ensure the committee runs smoothly, having regards to procedure, behaviour and ethics. To explain who are with us online: planning officers, a highway engineer and an environmental health officer. They will present the applications and provide any technical advice that may be required. The council solicitor. She will give advice to the committee on procedural and legal matters that may arise. There is also the minute taker and, of course, IT support. The elected members will consider the applications and collectively make the decisions. Voting will be by roll call. Each application will be introduced by the planning officers. Where there is a qualifying petition of 25 signature members, or inviting representative of petitions to address the committee for 5 minutes. I will then invite the applicants or their agent to address the committee for 5 minutes. Statutory and local consultees may also address the committee. A ward councillor can also address the committee. Once representations have been made and following any questions of clarification from the committee, the speaker may not participate in any debate that follows within the committee. The application will then be open to debate and discussion by members of the planning committee, and we will then make a decision on the application. When making decisions, members may only have regard to material planning considerations. It's a matter for each member individually to balance these considerations and to decide what weight to give them. Members will also have regard to local planning policies and to the National Planning Policy Framework and Guidance. Members of the committee must not predetermine any matter which comes to the committee for decision. However, it is permissible for committee members to be predisposed towards a particular outcome with regards to an application, provided they don't make up their minds on how to vote before considering the application details, listening to the presentations and the full debate at committee. Members must have listened to the debate and considered all the facts before deciding whether or not to move any motion. If a member is minded to put a motion to the committee, it is good practice to first seek advice from the planning officer on the wording of a potential motion. The order of tonight's agenda may be varied. A reminder for members: keep your microphone muted and your camera off until called to speak. Ensure that the chat function is accessible to you. Indicate that you want to speak by typing your request into the chat function. Turn on your camera and microphone prior to speaking. Turn them off again when you have finished. When a vote is taken, the solicitor will call your name. We now need to just check all members are present and their equipment is working correctly. When I call your name, could you turn on your camera and then your microphone and confirm, please? So we'll start with Bruce Berry.
Good evening, Chair. Yes, I'm here.
Pat Cleary.
Yeah, Pat Cleary in attendance, Chair. Thank you.
Andy Corkhill.
I'm present. Good evening, everyone.
George Davies.
Here, I'm present, Stuart. Thank you.
Steve Fowkes.
He's not here tonight.
He's not here tonight. Is there a deputy for him, George?
Yes, Adrian Jones, and I'm here.
I do beg your pardon there, Adrian, and thanks for confirming your attendance. Samantha Frost.
Hi, good evening, Chair. Yeah, present.
Kathy Hodson.
Yes, Chair, present.
Mary Jordan.
Yes, Chair, I'm present.
Brian Kelly.
Yes, Chair, I'm present. Thank you.
Lesley, Rennie, you're here for Ian Lewis?
Yes, present and correct.
Paul Stewart.
Yes, Chair. Yeah.
Stuart Whittingham.
Present, correct, Chair.
And Irene Williams.
Yes, I'm here, Chair, but I've been having some technical problems, so I hope it's all right now.
Well, we can certainly see how we go with that. We can certainly hear you. Okay, before we start with our agenda, members will be aware that over the weekend the former councillor and honorary alderman David Alderson has sadly passed away. David was a respected member of this committee until his retirement from the council last year and a former chair. David's untimely death has come as a shock to us all, and our thoughts go out to his family and his friends at this time. Can I suggest that we observe a few moments silence in his memory, and I think I'll take my lead from what Jeff Green decided to do at audit yesterday. If we can mute our microphones and turn off our cameras just for a moment or two in memory of David, if that's okay. Can I thank members for that? David Alderson. Okay, so let's turn now then to our agenda. Item 1 on the agenda is to approve the accuracy of the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of September 2020. We'll take them as read unless anybody has an objection. No objections, excellent. Item 2 on our agenda then, Members' Code of Conduct, Declarations of Interest. Members of the committee are asked whether they have any personal or prejudicial interests in connection with any application on the agenda, and if so, to declare them and to state the nature of the interest. Pat, are you?
Yes, please, Chair. Just in respect of items 4 and 5, non-prejudicial interest as a council appointee to the Liverpool City Region Transport Committee. I will be taking part in the debate and approaching it with an open mind. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll take it by agenda order, I think, so we'll begin with agenda item 3, application of C. 11 Kirby Close, West Kirby. If Matthew could introduce that application, please. Okay, we can see the plans.
Okay, so this is a retrospective planning application that seeks permission for alterations and extensions to the front, sides and rear of the dwelling. The works have already taken place. The works undertaken include extensions to the side, replacing a former garage with a new bathroom, utility room and entrance hall, bringing the east-facing side of the property flush with the front of the bungalow. So on this plan here, in fact, this is probably an easy one to look at. So that's this element here shown in red. On the opposite west-facing elevation, a small corner has been infilled to increase the size of the bedroom, and again is flush with the front elevation. So that's this section here, this corner has been filled in. And then finally a small section to the rear elevation has been filled in to bring the rear access door flush with the rear elevation. So that's this small section here. New windows have been inserted on the rear elevation. Under permitted development rights, extensions cannot be higher than the highest part of the existing roof or higher at the eaves than the existing eaves. Whilst the extensions do not exceed the highest part of the existing roof, they are 25 centimetres higher than the original eaves and as such do not benefit from permitted development. However, this small increase of 25 centimetres is not considered to result in any harm, and the scale and appearance of the extensions and alterations are considered to be appropriate to the size of the plot and surrounding area. A single objection has been received in connection with this application. The removal of internal walls and alterations to the internal layout of the property do not require planning permission. The external decking outside the rear kitchen window is not new. The timber has been replaced, but the decking has not increased in height. New steps have been added to the decking to give access to the new kitchen, but the decking area does not form part of the application as permission is not required. The main outlook from the rear elevation of the application site and the main outlook from the front elevation of the objector's property do not directly face one another. They sit at right angles to each other, and it is considered that there is no additional loss of privacy to either property as a result of the works undertaken that would support a refusal of planning permission. If I just show you this plan, so this was the bungalow before the works were undertaken. So there was a garage here formerly. This was converted into a guest bedroom, and there were some rear doors here that led down a number of steps onto the patio, not the patio, the decking at the rear. That rear access door is shown here on the rear elevation, but it was set further back into the rear elevation than it is presently. There were windows on the rear elevation as well. There's one here. And this larger window here, they've been replaced with a larger window. So in terms of any overlooking from this part of the bungalow, we're satisfied that there's nothing on top of what was there previously. And there was a bedroom here previously, which has now been replaced by the kitchen. And if I go back to this plan, you can see that these are the French doors that are now in the kitchen where the guest bedroom was previously, and these are the large windows that relate to the living room, and this is the decking that, as I said, is not part of this application. So the application is recommended for approval. There's no petition in connection with this application. But I think one of the ward councillors is here to speak.
Okay, so we move to delegation by ward councillor, and we have a ward councillor with us to speak. So Jeff Green, you can turn on your camera. We're just waiting to get you on the screen there, Jeff.
Okay.
Somewhere on here, there's some plan. There they are.
Super. You've got the photographs and the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Just tell me when you want me to move them on, councillor.
I will do. Okay. Whenever you want me to start, Stuart.
You start now, and you address us as the ward councillor. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much. First of all, could I thank you and the committee for the respect you paid to David Elderton. I know. Personally, he was an outstanding chairman of the planning committee. It was something that he loved to be on, and he was also a tremendous ward colleague. So thank you for the respect shown to David. And also just, again, instruction, just say that originally this was a matter that was being dealt with by Councillor Watt. Councillor Watt, I think, took it out of delegation. As you know, Jeffrey is indisposed at the moment. So I think Geoffrey's a bit of an old stager at the planning committee, so I'm relatively new. So I hope you'll bear with me to a degree, however inadequate my comments. And also, I think, Matthew, you will have received an email from Councillor Jenny Johnson, who passed on the same views as Geoffrey had with you. Okay, I'll try and start. And also, at the very outset of this, I think I ought to be clear that I think the applicants have behaved perfectly reasonably and followed advice and guidance as they've received it. So this is not in any criticism directly of them. However, looking at the guidance, I think Appendix 1, Wirral Metropolitan Borough Council Supplementary Planning Guidance, House Extensions, and on page 2 of that, it says your house and your neighbour's house. The first point it says here is your extension should not result in a significant loss of privacy, daylight or sunlight to neighbouring properties, nor be visually overbearing or dominant when viewed from adjoining houses. And I think this goes to the issue of this new application and the concerns of Lynn Farrow, who is the neighbour. In fact, she has two main objections to the development that severely harm her privacy and feeling of well-being. First of all, the patio doors. The size and position of the doors look directly into Lynn's living room, with only 12 metre of separation, I think you can see on the plan, almost half the distance prescribed by SPG 11, which says it should be a minimum of 21 metres. SPG 11 also requires that the windows to habitable rooms that face each other, such that direct overlooking is likely to occur, shall be a minimum of 21 metres. The plan shows the relationship of the two properties and the offset distance from the patio doors to the habitable rooms windows at number 32A Village Road. If we move on to the first photo, if that's possible, Matthew, please. Oh, there we go. So, as you can see, this photo was actually provided by the applicants, but it demonstrates that the new kitchen, they can see directly into Mrs. Farrow's living room and overlook her private patio area. And again, I visited both the applicant and Mrs. Farrow, and it is fair to say that you can see directly into Lynn's living room, and equally from Lynn's living room you can see directly into the applicant's kitchen, etc. So as I said, that demonstrates that from the new kitchen they can see directly into the living room and patio area. Photo 2, if you would, Matthew. That's possible. Okay, photo 2 is the view from the living room towards the extension and illustrates the effect on privacy the patio doors cause to both properties. It could be argued that they're not directly opposite, and I'm sure Matthew will make the case that they're not directly opposite. However, SPG doesn't say anywhere that it is a requirement of the policy. We believe the important fact is that they both face each other to the extent that direct overlooking does occur. Then we go on to the decking. In paragraph 310.1 of the officer report, it does say that the applicant maintains that the height of the decking has not changed. And to be fair, I believe, Matthew, you've also been and visited. However, the original deck was removed before the application was submitted and have not provided, as far as we're concerned, might have done to Matthew, any evidence to substantiate that particular claim. Excerpts from the planning application drawing prepared by the applicant's agent show that the existing and proposed floor plans prepared by the applicant's agent. It's important to note that there is a decrease in the, I think, is this the next, is this another picture? Keep coming, I think. There we go. Ooh, there we are. That's it. Thank you. that there's a decrease in the number of steps down from the bungalow to the decking from 4 to 3, and that strongly indicates that the new decking is at a higher level. The drawing also indicates that the steps are shallower because they have increased the overall number of steps down to the garden level from 6 to 7. It can be estimated from the ground levels indicated on the application drawing that the new decking is some 315 millimetres higher than the original, allowing Mrs. Farrow's neighbours an unobstructed view into her living room and private amenity space. Because of the position and shielding of the original back door and the lower level of the original decking, Mrs. Farrow's privacy was always shielded from view. She was never aware of previous owners' use of the deck or the garden. Photo 3 illustrates the extent of the overlooking from the new patio area. And that picture on the side, I don't know how well people can see that. I'm struggling with my spectacles, but if the right hand, you can see the living room on the left. That window on the right hand side is Mrs. Farrow's, that's it, thank you, is Mrs. Farrow's bedroom. And again, obviously, the concern about overlooking is impacting her well-being. So the height and position of the decking has resulted in the complete removal of Mrs. Farrow's privacy, not only to her living room and patio area, but also, most importantly, to her bedroom, and to such an extent that she's unable to open her curtains for fear of being watched. There is a planning presumption against urban balconies and terraces that directly overlook neighbours' private amenity space. So in conclusion, Chair, the glazed patio doors, we believe, are contrary to the requirements of SPG 11 regarding maintaining privacy. The new patio deck has been constructed at a higher level, seriously eroding Mrs. Farrow's privacy and feeling of well-being. The patio doors should be relocated closer to the living room, or at the very least be made obscure glazed by condition, and the patio decking reduced to no more than the original height and not directly accessible from the kitchen area. And with that, Chairman, can I thank you for your consideration and time, and the committee's consideration and time, and also the officer time. I've witnessed myself the officer time that's been put into this as well. So I'd like to thank the officers for their efforts on this particular application. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jeff. I normally ask members of the committee at this point if they have any questions they would like to put to the speaker, questions of clarification. Do any members have any questions they might like to put to the ward councillor? No?
Okay.
Excellent, you're off the hook. Okay. Just want to bottom out possibly again with Matthew. What's permitted development and what isn't? I mean, I appreciate there are issues, are there not, with permitted development, which are making the news even at the moment, and no doubt these things have gone on in the past. Can we be clear about windows, terraces and doors? If it wasn't for the height of the eaves, where would we be, Matthew?
Okay, thank you. Through you, Chair. So if you look at this plan here, so this is the floor plan as the bungalow was before the works were undertaken, and as I said in my presentation, these doors here, these were set further back, so there were at that point there were more steps. And they were shallower than what's now in place because the doors were set back. So these doors have gone, and this wall has been built here so that it's flush with this part of the original bungalow, and obviously French doors have now been put in. The decking is it doesn't need planning permission, irrespective of whether it was there or not. The applicants maintain that it hasn't been replaced. It just the new timber has been the old timber stripped off and new timber has been put in place. But regardless of that, the decking is of a height that it doesn't require planning permission anyway. So that's out of the equation. The decking is not part of this planning application. I've been out myself on site, and this is these are photos that I took. Obviously, there were photos that were submitted by the applicant, and there were photos that were submitted by the objector as well. And I went out on Friday and took these photos from the applicant's property at my eye level, and I'm 6'1". So this is taken in the furthest corner of the decking, and that's Mrs. Farrow's property. This is the front elevation of the property, and this is the new extension. And as you can see, the eaves have been increased on this. So the eaves height is 25 centimetres above the existing eaves. If the eaves had matched the existing eaves, then that extension would have been permitted development and wouldn't have required planning permission. This is a photo taken on the lower step as you come out of the new patio doors from the kitchen, and you can see the top of Mrs. Farrow's window. That's here. Now these are photos that I went back out on site yesterday and took some photos from Mrs. Farrow's property. So this photo is taken on the corner of her patio area, where this blue plant pot is, and that's where I'm stood taking a photo here. So the decking is below this fence level. This is the kitchen, and this is the new living room. This is taken from the back of Mrs. Farrow's property. This is taken from her dining room doors that lead out onto the patio. This is taken inside her living room in the chair, which I believe that she likes to sit in most. This is taken from inside Mrs. Farrow's bedroom, right up against the window. And this is taken sitting in one of those chairs on the patio. So that's at my eye level, sat in the chair on Mrs. Farrow's property. I think they're all the photos that I've taken. So, where's my plan? Yep, that's it. So what we've done is, in reaching the recommendation for approval, we've taken into account what could have been permitted and what would have been there had it not been for the small increase in the eaves. We've also had regard to the fact that there were windows on this rear elevation in the past, so there would have been an element of overlooking from those windows anyway. This window was to a guest bedroom, and these windows were to the living area and kitchen of the rear of that property. So in that sense, any increase in overlooking from the rear elevation of that property is, in our view as officers, quite minimal. Again, I'm not going to labour the point on the decking because the decking doesn't require permission. So, as I say, I'm not going to go into that again. And I think it's fair to say that, in a sense, there's overlooking into both properties, which is not unusual in an urban setting. The applicant's property is overlooked by the objector's property, and the objector's property is overlooked by the applicant's property, but we don't feel that having regard to what could have been done under permitted development, that this would be a sustainable reason for refusal. You're muted, Chair.
Oh, do you think I would have got used to it by now? I have Kathy Hodson who wishes to speak and Paul Stuart who wishes to ask a question. Kathy, you were first. Do you want to...
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to concur with Matthew's comments. I too went on a site visit on Sunday and I visited both properties. Matthew was correct that there is some overlooking from both properties, but correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, the separation distances are irrelevant insofar as the existing building line hasn't been altered. I actually crawled under the decking on the application site and I could not see that there was any obvious reason to suggest that it had been heightened in any way. It looked exactly the same as sort of previously. My own feeling on this application is that the fact that the only reason for it to come to committee is because of the height of the eave, which is a distance of about 9 inches, which I understand is higher due to building regs requiring warm loft insulation, which has resulted in this slight increase in the ridge height. My suggestion would be that it can be mitigated, the overlooking from both sides could be mitigated with perhaps an extra foot of greenery or shrubbery around the decking area, which of course has got nothing to do with planning. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Kathy. Paul?
Thank you, Chair. I think Kathy's just answered my question, but I just want to double check with Matthew that the only reason this has been brought here tonight is because of an additional 25 centimetres on the eaves increase, no other reason. Otherwise, this would have been permitted development.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's in front of the committee because Councillor Geoffrey Watt took it out of delegation. But it requires planning permission because the eaves height exceeds the original eaves height by 25 centimetres.
Is that the reason why the applicant did not submit an application beforehand?
The applicant sought some pre-application advice from us, but they didn't specify what they wanted to do at that time. So they just got a standard response that set out what would be permitted development and what wouldn't be permitted development. But then as the work has progressed, as Councillor Hodson has pointed out, as part of the building regs requirement in terms of what they needed to do in the loft space and loft insulation, they had to increase the eaves height above what was there originally, and they didn't realise that they needed planning permission for that. So in that sense, I think it was a genuine mistake, and a complaint came forward which we investigated, and this application has come forward as part of that enforcement investigation.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Any further comments from members? It does, I'm afraid, seem to me that those aspects of the development that seem to be causing disquiet with the neighbour enjoy permission, and indeed if we were to find some way of refusing it, all the applicant would need to do is lower the eaves by 250 mil, and in doing so obviously probably remove the thermal insulation, which might be a bit cooler, or the roof height. I think that would be fully unreasonable. Okay, we've got people typing in the chat box. Yep, I don't think there's unfortunately much more we can say about it. Permitted development is a right that property owners enjoy. Planning permission is required for the 250 mil. Is the harm by the additional height? I'd suggest there isn't. Kathy, can I bring you back in then?
Yes, Chair, I'm happy to move approval on this one.
Thank you, Paul.
I'm happy, Chair, to second approval.
Okay. I'm not seeing further comments from members, so we shall move to voting. Voting will be for, against or abstaining on the motion to approve. The solicitor will call your name. Please turn on your camera and microphone and say who you are before voting. Members should only cast a vote if they have heard the planning officer's presentation and the discussion in relation to this matter in full and have not had any technical difficulties during this item. In the event that you have had problems hearing the discussion, you should not vote and indicate not voting when called. If I can hand over to the solicitor to conduct the vote. And just before she does, just a reminder, we have two deputies, Lesley Rennie for Ian and Adrian Jones for Steve Fowles.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Berry.
Councillor Bruce Berry voting for the application.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary.
Pat Cleary voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Corkhill.
Andy Corkhill voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
Councillor George Davies voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Frost.
Councillor Sam Frost voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Hodson.
Voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Councillor Adrian Jones voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Councillor Mary Jordan voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Stuart Kelly voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Councillor Brian Kenny voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Rennie.
Councillor Lesley Rennie voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Stuart.
Councillor Paul Stewart voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Whittingham.
Councillor Stuart Whittingham voting for.
And Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams.
Okay.
I know Councillor Williams was having some technical problems. So.
Okay. I'll go so far as to say that her vote may not have swung.
Yeah. I think if we record that as not voting for technical reasons, that's 13-0 with one not voting.
Okay, thank you very much. That application then is approved. Okay, so we'll move on then to agenda item 4. Various locations on Network Rail land between Bidston and New Brighton railway stations. If the plan officers could introduce this report, please.
Through you, Chair, what I'm intending to do is, because the masts are exactly the same, if it's okay with you, I'll present them for both items 4 and 5, but obviously you'll need to make a decision on item 4 and item 5 separately, if that's okay.
Yes, I think we have a ward councillor wishes to speak on 4 particular, so that's fine.
Okay, I'll just put the plan up.
Okay. We can more or less see that.
Okay, so these planning applications for items 4 and 5, they seek permission for the erection of 5 masts along the rail network between Bidston and New Brighton under reference APP 20-00251. That's item 4. So that's these masts here along this section of the route. And then 11 masts between Bidston and West Kirby under reference APP 20-00474. That's item 5 on the agenda, and that's these masts that run along this section of the route. These masts here have been approved under delegated powers. Each mast would measure 8.6 metres in height and would comprise of 4 antennae, 1 electricity cabinet and associated equipment. The proposals are in connection with supporting and enhancing internet connectivity for the future Merseyrail fleet due to come into use later this year. They form part of a wider infrastructure project as part of Merseyrail's train connectivity information system project to support onboard monitoring systems, train performance, passenger information and announcements, CCTV and location services, and communication links to the main control rooms. 4 masts, as I said, that's these 4 here, have recently been approved along the network, with additional masts within Liverpool City region having received approval by the relevant local planning authorities earlier in 2020. The masts are sited to ensure a continuous line of sight to ensure unbroken connectivity along the rail network. These are not faux masts operated by a mobile phone operator. Neither the radio and antennas on each pole nor the associated equipment would operate within the technology spectrums for mobile phone masts. The frequencies and bandwidths are completely different and dramatically lower than those used in cellular technologies such as 4G and 5G. The equipment within the cabinets and on the poles are silent and do not require cooling fans. Power would be derived from existing supplies, and there is no requirement for generators, ensuring the installations are as quiet as possible. It's perhaps worth noting that the need for the planning application has arisen as ADCOMs are not electronic communications code operators, and Merseytravel are not a railway undertaker, and as such do not benefit from permitted development rights. However, had Network Rail, who own the land, undertaken to do the works proposed, then an application would not have been required, and the works could have been undertaken under permitted development rights afforded to railway undertakers in connection with movement by traffic by rail. This is considered to be a strong material consideration in favour of supporting the application. It's considered that the siting of these masts along this section of the route will not significantly adversely affect the amenities of adjacent properties or the wider landscape. The proposals are considered to bring economic and social benefits associated with the enhancement of the digital connectivity for the rail operator and its passengers. The applications are recommended for approval. There are no petitions in association with either of these applications. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Can I ask Ian Lewis to turn on his mic and camera, please?
Okay, so is that working?
It is. Ian, I just wanted to check with you to start with whether you're speaking as a representative of objectors or whether you want to take the slot for the ward councillor. So it's a mute difference, but we tend to take it in the order objector, applicant, ward councillor.
I'd like to speak as a ward councillor, please, Chair.
Okay. In which case, I'll ask. Oh dear. I'll ask Ruth Jackson if she could turn on her mic and camera.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Can. Would it be better, Matthew, if we lost the picture? I don't think it adds to the...
No problem at all.
Okay. So can we see...
Sorry, did you want the camera on but no picture?
No, yeah, we want to see you.
All right.
There we are.
I wasn't taking it personally, don't worry. Okay.
You have 5 minutes to address us, and I'll give you a heads up when you have 1 minute to go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hopefully I won't take that long. So good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about the ADCOMs application for this network of telecommunications equipment on the
travel or the Merseyrail network. So my name, as you know, is Ruth Jackson, and I work alongside Sean Gaffey, who you will have met at the previous committee to discuss this application in June. And you may also have come across them if you've been involved in any of the subsequent consultation activities that we've carried out. As you know, this application was deferred to allow us time to speak directly with members and residents about the proposals. Details of that additional consultation are set out in the officers' reports that you have, and also in the statement of community involvement that we've produced and submitted. So rather than run through all of that detail, I would just like to note that we welcomed the opportunity to speak with people concerned about the project and to help improve understanding of the constraints associated with the delivery of the equipment, in particular in the context of working with the railway in the railway environment, which has lots of its own complexities. What I just really want to do this evening is highlight the strategic importance of this project, which Mr. Parry Davies has already covered, but just to really reflect on that again. Rolling out this equipment is necessary to allow remote communication with the train, between the train's onboard and monitoring systems. And it will improve passenger information systems as well, and the wider network security. In addition to this, the new equipment will provide passengers with wireless internet connectivity. With the application, we provided a copy of a letter from Mersey Travel, which I think is very relevant to this evening's considerations. And in that letter, it was noted that the new train connectivity information system is an essential component of the works to modernise the passenger rail network of Merseyside and West Lancashire. Mersey Travel's investments in the new fleet of passenger trains is due to come into operation this year. Prompt decision-making on these applications will ensure a risk of delays are avoided and the public benefits of investment are realised as soon as possible. So what I want to do is leave it there, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open it to members who might have any questions of clarification, if they could make it known. Nothing popping in the chat box. That's excellent. Okay, very clear. Perhaps then I could ask Ian Lewis to speak as ward councillor. No.
Okay, Chair, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ian. Thanks.
Okay, is the camera okay?
Good. Yes, that's fine as well.
Thanks, Chair. Can I begin by saying that I don't think anybody has opposed the development in principle. We all understand the importance of the TCIS programme, both to the Merseyrail network and to the wider area. The issue, as we heard at the last meeting when this application was considered, and I am only speaking on the application for the New Brighton line tonight, I'm not trying to address the other application that the Mr. Parry Davies referred to. The application that we considered in June, there were significant concerns from a small number of residents, admittedly, over the proposed locations of the equipment and some of the details of the application. Now, Mr. Parry Davies, when he introduced this report this evening, mentioned that 4 masts have already been approved along the New Brighton to Birkenhead line on this development. As I understand it, and as I was always told, each application has to be considered on its merits. And if we wanted to debate the location of the masts near the Bidston Tesco's roundabout, I'd point out there's nobody living there. So, of course, they were approved because there's nobody living there to object. Also, the fact that National Rail did not submit an application for this is not material. We have an application before us that is required, that was submitted in accordance with planning law, and therefore I would ask the committee to judge this application on its particular merits. I'd also like to thank Mr. Gaffey, who has been referred to from the previous speaker, acting as the contact point for the agent on behalf of the applicant, ADComs. I think it would be fair to say, Chair, that following the unusual decision of the last planning committee when this was considered to defer it for further consultation, there was some lack of clarity as to what exactly that consultation should look like and how it should be carried out. and different people had different views, because clearly we were in unknown territory in that we didn't know what exactly the consultation should look like in order to satisfy the residents. So to be fair to Mr. Gaffey and the agent, they did approach the objectors and they did engage with those with a number of those objectors and a number of those residents, both as outlined in the statement of community involvement and also in the many emails that we had between us over the ensuing 2 or 3 months. I would like to address some of the points in the report. Clearly, both the language of the report and the comments that we've heard so far, that there is a great demand for this application to be approved and no doubt significant pressure. But I do think some of the points raised by residents, I apologise, I would say some of the concerns raised by residents are still material to this application and haven't been addressed, not for the want of the agent, but because on a number of occasions the agent was unable to provide technical information that had been requested by objectors in their very reasonable emails on this issue. If we look first at application 076, this is the application to locate equipment near to Southbourne Road in Wallasey Village, near to Wallasey Village Station. We're advised, one of the residents proposed that the site be relocated further along the track to remove it away from houses on that side of the line. We were told that in response that this wasn't possible because relocating the equipment would cause a further problem because it would be nearer other people's homes. In fact, it would be on the other side of the line, and we were told further on in the report that the equipment would be unobtrusive. So again, it appears to me and to a number of residents that we're trying to have it both ways, or the applicant is trying to have it both ways. The proposed alternative site for 076 is on the different side of the track to the houses that are referred to on Mosslands Drive, Gainsborough Road. So if the equipment is unobtrusive to residents of Southbourne Road, it would be even more unobtrusive to residents of Gainsborough Road if we're to follow the same logic. We're also told that the equipment will be no larger in scale than a large street lighting column. If that is the case, again, the alternative proposed site on behind Gainsborough Road on the other side of the track will be even less obtrusive. So I don't feel that particular point has been considered. Indeed, that leads me on to TBS 077, where the proposed alternatives by the residents of Regent Road were to relocate the equipment onto the Grove Road Station car park. Now, the response from the applicant there makes it clear that there was no site consideration undertaken, no site visit undertaken to consider that site, even though it's owned by Merseyrail. So there is reference in the applicant's response that that site, words to the effect of, words that state even if it was available. Well, clearly it's available and no rent would be charged because it is a Merseyrail site and there is existing telecommunications equipment on that site. It's also moot that condition 3 on this application as proposed requires that no groundworks are to begin. I regret, Chair, that this is already too late in that the groundworks for TBS 077 have been carried out, the site has been cleared, groundworks have been undertaken, and so the condition that was requested by the Merseyside Environmental Advisory Service has already been breached even before it's been approved. Chair, I'd like to conclude by saying I do welcome the fact that the agent undertook significant consultation, but I do regret the fact that the applicant seemed unwilling to engage similarly and left it to the agent, and therefore a number of questions from residents were left unanswered or with vague responses, Chair. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Do any members have any questions for Councillor Lewis as the Ward Councillor? No? Okay, thanks for that. Just for members' guidance in the report, the two maps, the two locations that have been raised, the plan officer assessment is given in paragraph 3.10.1 for TBS 076 and in paragraph 3.10.2 for TBS 077. They're in front of us. Any questions, comments, debate from members of the committee? No, everybody content with what they saw. I mean, my observations on those paragraphs I've just referred to was maybe reading them, the distances involved. So TBS 076 appears to be 40 metres from the rear elevation of the nearest dwelling, and TBS 077 appears to be 15 metres from the rear elevation of the dwelling. And in the plans that are Matthew forwarded separately, we can see on page 9 for 077 and 5 for 07. I've lost sight of that one. 776 probably. We can see photographs on site. Stuart Whittingham, you want to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for letting me speak and acknowledge Ian's appreciation for the opportunity given for a bit of extra consultation from the agents. Obviously, sadly, obviously with the COVID situation, it's probably not been as widespread as detailed as one would wish. I have to say, as someone who lives near a railway line, you have to expect that there will be certain bits of infrastructure that will be added to the railway or removed from the railway from time to time. And as the railway evolves and new technologies are introduced, then obviously the infrastructure requirements will come into fore, and there's very much operational reasons why certain bits of infrastructure need to be located in certain places. Now, speaking to Merseyrail, one of the reasons why the mast couldn't be located on the other side of the line is because it would mean that the railway would have to be closed and the tracks lifted, so the cabling can be run underneath the track. So obviously that just inconvenience a large number of people and also be extremely expensive. I'd like to think that we all want a safe railway, and this infrastructure would allow the new rolling stock, which I think everyone's welcomes, to feature live CCTV, whereby the police or the railway authorities can actually view what's happening on train in real time, which obviously will make the trains a lot more safe, a lot more welcoming, and I think we should all welcome that technology, but it does require infrastructure, and I don't think we should be trying to block progress in that regard. As has been noted, had Network Rail been be dealing with this application, deal with these masts, then they would have been able to just install and use them permissive development rights. But we can't be in a position where we're arguing over position signals and signals or other bits of infrastructure because the operational requirements must take precedence, in my view.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Pat Cleary, your question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I've got a question which just relates to item 5, if that's okay. On page 35 of the report, it refers to World Wildlife's submission.
Chair, sorry, Can I just interrupt? I think because Councillor Lewis just spoke to this item, I think if we can limit the debate to this item for the moment and decide this item and then move on to the next item, that would be a better way of dealing with this. Apologies, Councillor Cleary.
That's okay. So we're going to debate item 4 and vote on it, and then item 5 and vote on it. That's okay.
The two separate applications be broken down like that. I think what Matthew indicated was that he's not going to introduce separately item 5 because the issues are the same. So
I thought we were debating both simultaneously and then voting separately on each of them. But I'll save my question until we actually move on to item 5.
Okay, great fun. Any questions? Further questions then on item or comments on item 4? No, I think it's because a number of masts involved here, and a couple of them are the ones that have caused controversy, obviously because of their proximity or that they are in primarily residential areas. And as Ian indicated, if you're going to put a mast where nobody lives, then nobody's probably going to object to it. The committee at the previous meeting did vote to defer. That was the collective wisdom of the committee, and it seems to have resulted in a degree of engagement with this. I think I'm satisfied with the response that's given in paragraph 3.10.2 in terms of the line of sight requirement and the technical reasons why these particular sites have been chosen. I think I'm also satisfied that the distances involved in the two specified masts wouldn't give rise to harm, and I do think that it is material that if it were a network rail, you would have just put them up and we would have found out the next day. That being said, then, and to give us something to bite on, I'll move approval of item 4, if I may. Is there a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Stuart, yep, thanks. Last chance for any other members to make contribution? No. Okay. Voting will be for, against or abstaining on the motion to approve. The solicitor will call your name. Please turn on your camera and microphone and say who you are before voting. Members should only cast a vote if they have heard the planning officer's presentation and the debate in relation to this matter in full and have not had any technical difficulties during this item. In the event that you have had problems hearing the discussion, you should not vote and indicate not voting when called. If I may hand over to the solicitor.
Thank you, Chair. And I call on Councillor Bruce Berry.
Councillor Bruce Berry voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary.
Pat Cleary voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Corkhill.
Andy Corkhill voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
Councillor George Davies voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Frost.
Sam Frost voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Hodson.
Councillor Catherine Hodson voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Councillor Adrian Jones voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Councillor Mary Jordan voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Stuart Kelly voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Councillor Brian Kenny voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Rennie.
Councillor Lesley Rennie voting against.
Thank you. Councillor Stuart.
Councillor Paul Stuart voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Whittingham.
Apologies, my fingers have got a bit sticky. Councillor Whittingham voting for.
And Councillor Williams.
Hi, Councillor Williams. I'm not voting due to technical problems.
Thank you. Thank you. That's sorry, that's 12-1 with one not voting for technical reasons.
Okay. Thank you very much. That application has been approved. We now move on then to item 5, various locations on the railway between Bidston and West Kirby stations. I'm not going to ask Matthew to repeat himself, but I will now bring back Pat Cleary to ask his question on this item.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was just in reference to the comments from Wirral Wildlife that are referenced on page 35, which draw the applicant's attention to biodiversity issues and recommend conditions to prevent a significant adverse effect on biodiversity and protected species. I've looked at the conditions, and it seems like the relevant condition is number 3. I'd just like some clarification as to what the nature of the objections were and whether they've been sufficiently covered in the conditions. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, the condition was drafted in consultation with MEAS. So yes, in answer to the question, the condition does cover the issues that MEAS raised.
Sorry, I'm specifically referring to the issues that Wirral Wildlife raised. So,
they were the same things. Same things from Wirral Wildlife, same things from MEAS. They've all been picked up in condition 3.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other member contributions on this? This line? No. Okay, so again, I'll give you something to bite on. And I'll move approval of this one. Is there a seconder?
I'll second this, Stuart.
Okay, then that was George Davies.
It was. Sorry.
Okay. So last opportunity then for members to indicate. No. Okay. Voting will be for, against, or abstaining on the motion to approve. The solicitor will call your name. Please turn on your camera and microphone and say who you are before voting. Members should only cast a vote if they have heard the planning officer's presentation and the debate in relation to this matter in full and have not had any technical difficulties during this item. In the event that you have had problems here in the discussion, you should not vote and indicate not voting when called.
Thank you, Chair. So if I can call on Councillor Berry.
Councillor Bruce Berry voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary.
Pat Cleary voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Corkhill.
Andy Corkhill voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
Councillor George Davies voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Frost.
Councillor Sam Frost voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Hodson.
Councillor Catherine Hodson voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Councillor Adrian Jones voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Councillor Mary Jordan voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Stuart Kelly voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Councillor Brian Kenny voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Rennie.
Councillor Lesley Rennie voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Stuart.
Sorry, Councillor Paul Stuart voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Whittingham.
Councillor Stuart Whittingham voting for.
Thank you. And Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams not voting due to technical difficulties.
Thank you. Thank you. That's 13-0 with one not voting for technical reasons, Chair.
Thanks for that. That application is approved. That concludes the items that we have, except for, and then finally, if you like, this is actually the last meeting of this municipal year. The council AGM is on Monday and a new planning committee will be appointed, which is slightly smaller than the one that we currently have. Can I then thank colleagues who won't be joining the new committee for the following municipal year for their work and contribution to the committee during their membership of it. Can I also thank officers for the support they've given us during this extended period and for facilitating our work during this strange and difficult time. We've been able to ensure, I think, that the public and ward councillors have been able to continue to contribute to the decisions that we have taken. There doesn't look to be an early return to the relative normality of the committee room, and I look forward then to the new committee continuing to do the best it can in its virtual environment in the new year. And with that, members, I will close the committee and ask that the